Thank you for watching Sports Talk Philadelphia. Welcome back to another exciting episode. We just came off a really close victory thanks to the man, the legend himself, Jake Elliott. We'll be talking about him. And then I have some excellent people on desk. You'll find out more about it after this intro.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
So yeah, after that intro, I love that intro, right? This week I got Selena B-Mac and I got Josh Abrams here on desk. We're going to be talking Eagles, we're going to be talking Phillies. So first, let's start it off with the Eagles. My God, that game.
It was painful to watch for a lot of it, at least for the second half until the last 10 minutes or so of the game.
It's like the Eagles forgot how to be a football team in the second half until, Jake Elliott came up and just booted that ball away. Jesus Christ. Let's go ahead and let's throw the stats up there. And my God. So, we start the game, we shut them out 14-0 at halftime, and then in the fourth quarter, 21 unanswered points by the Giants. How exactly did we drop the ball here?
Well, you definitely saw a momentum shift between the halves. First half was all Eagles, and then once you get to the second half, the Giants come out with a different type of attitude, and they're just pounding away at the Eagles, and the Eagles can't seem to catch up until the very last few minutes of the game.
When you look at what happened in the last play of the first half, we stopped the Giants from scoring. I thought for sure it was going to be a 14-3 or 14-7 game at halftime, but no. Defense stepped up. They stopped the Giants, and sure enough, it's a 14-0 game at halftime. And you're thinking, all right, it's probably going to be, like a 21-7, 28-7 ball game. Maybe the Giants get a score late, but no. I guess the team just decided to let that Zach Ertz fumble, I guess was in the fourth quarter, right? They let that fumble get to them, and they always say that one little mistake can lead to a whole big momentum change, and essentially that's what happened. But sure enough, Jake Elliott, man, the practice squad kicker who got cut from the Bengals, he comes in and makes easily the biggest kick in Eagles history. So that was definitely a huge play, without a doubt.
And going back to that fumble from Zach Ertz, and you get to see the look on ODB's face when he scored those 2 touchdowns on us. And he decided to take he decided to urine on the field, and it reminded me that we're not ready. We're not a playoff caliber team yet. And when we can drop the ball like that and then continue to drop the ball in 10 minutes, 21 points, what other NFL team is really going to let that happen besides, the Ravens?
Yeah, Kyle, I get what you're saying. But I think, I don't know that the Eagles are not ready for as a playoff team. I think they have a lot of potential there. There's a lot of new guys on this team, especially in the wide receiving core. So I think it's going to take a bit of getting used to. Zach Ertz, though, there's no excuse for that because he is a veteran. But I think I actually have him as my pick for next week, so I think he's going to pull it together.
I think when you look at the mix of experience and the mix of inexperience that we have on this team, I think we're kind of letting our inexperience get to us more than the experience part. Now, I understand that we've been, having trouble with Jason Kelce, Jason Peters, Fletcher Cox. He was injured. Jordan Hicks was injured. We have had a lot of key injuries that kind of stopped us from getting to Eli Manning. I don't believe we had a single sack on Eli Manning this week, which is very uncharacteristic for us as well as Eli Manning, because you see him getting sacked every other week by any other team. So I'm looking for this upcoming week for the defensive line to step up. I'm hoping Fletcher Cox can be healthy. I don't know exactly where he stands right now in terms of his health, but I think if there's any week to bounce back from that fourth quarter that almost cost us the game, it's this week where we need to step it up.
And then Jalen Mills, for example. Jalen Mills playing, 8 yards off of ODB. What league do you give ODB that much space at the line of scrimmage to make all his cuts And like, do you think that our secondary needs to be replaced? Like, sure, we got some injuries, but my God, we can't be looking this bad. We're going up against a couple of strong receiver options for the Chargers, and Phillip Rivers is no Eli Manning. And so, do you think that we have what it takes to really like stop their receivers?
I think back to the injuries are a big part of why the secondary is not doing well. Like Ronald Darby, the newly acquired safety, I believe, being out is a big hit to them. I think Malcolm Jenkins needs to step up and as a leadership role in the secondary. As for Jalen Mills, he also needs to step up. So I think injury is a part to it, but also this lack of cohesion amongst the secondary too, and knowing where to be when. So like you said, not covering Odell when obviously Odell's one of the best wide receivers in the league. Why aren't you on top of him?
Well, when we were just talking about the inexperience of the team, this is where the inexperience plays in. I wrote down the stats here. Jalen Mills led the team in tackles, all right? And then followed by, in that secondary, Patrick Robinson and Rasul Douglas. Those are two, I mean, Douglas is a rookie, and Robinson, I believe, is he a rookie?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, either way, we don't have the talent at the cornerback position that we need to be able to hold our own right now. And it's going to take some time, as you said, Selena, with Darby coming back. Robinson and Douglas picked off Manning, though. So it was typical for Eli Manning to throw those interceptions. It's going to be interesting to see how Robinson and Douglas react to Phillip Rivers. And as you said, the receiving core of Keenan Allen and Tyrell Williams, maybe not as high of a caliber compared to the Giants, but still, you said Phillip Rivers is no Eli Manning. Rivers tends to have better games than Eli Manning. So it's really going to be intriguing to watch, not necessarily individual matchups, but just wide receivers, San Diego's wide receivers versus the Eagles secondary. We'll see how it plays out.
And if it does come down to us needing a couple points, you know who we're going to call. We're going to call the God himself, Jake Elliott, to come up to kick. 61 yards right at the end of the game, stop us from going into overtime. You can see on the screen, he's still wearing his Bengals uniform. We just picked this kid up, and he's already a legend in Philadelphia. Like, do you guys think he's still going to be here? Do you think that he just solidified himself? Look at such a fantastic image. I felt so happy. I jumped up and down and I screamed. I don't know about you guys, but looking at that, I feel like we just won a Super Bowl, and it's only week 3.
Yeah, this young kid, Jake Elliott, the Eagles picked him up off the Bengals practice squad after Caleb Sturgis got hurt. And I don't know about him. I know he hit a 61-yard field goal, which everybody is so hype on, won the game, obviously monumental, but he also missed an extra point last game. He missed another field goal. And I honestly think part of the reason why he was able to hit that 61-yard field goal is because prior to the kick, Giants coach Ben McAdoo called the timeout in an attempt to ice him, but Elliott hadn't kicked the ball already. So it kind of gave him more time to prepare. And I think he's got the distance. I just don't know if he has the accuracy to keep him on this team when Sturgis gets healthy.
And I like that point you brought up, Selena, about McAdoo icing him. He didn't get the kick off, so I guess we would have never known how that first kick would have gone. And it's little things like that that really make the difference. Elliott, I read conflicting reports that he had gone to Coach Peterson and said, "This is my shot right here," and I think it's going to be huge going down these next couple of games while Sturgis is still hurt, for him to have that confidence to go out there and just just go out there and have fun and don't worry about the jitters or the butterflies that enter him. Because I can't imagine how nervous I would have been going out there kicking a 61-yard field goal. That's 2 or 3 yards short of the all-time record in terms of length. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks with our whole kicker situation. But it's definitely a good sign.
And you brought up the fact that Ben McAdoo didn't actually get to ice him. If Peterson last week, he did get iced against the Chiefs, and he missed that field goal right after, one of the reasons we lost. So yeah, it is interesting how it would have went if it would have been a successful icing. I mean, to be completely honest, I thought it was going to go into overtime anyway, which really just brought the surprise and the happiness of actually making it, knowing we don't have to sit there another 5 minutes and watch a game could potentially go the other way, because the Giants seem to be able to flip a switch at times and look like a great football team or look like a really terrible football team. And I'm really glad that we didn't have to worry about that switch. But let's talk about a switch that we have to make after Darren Sproles. He suffered 2 injuries and it's really unfortunate because this guy, he's another free agency pickup that we made, but the city loves him, and he works so hard every down. And I mean, torn ACL, broken arm, he's out for the year. I don't know what to do here. Like, how do you guys feel about it?
It's hard for me not to say that this is not a career-ending injury. I love Darren Sproles. I think he's a great running back. He brings a lot to the table for the Eagles every single week. And to just go down with both a broken arm and a torn ACL in the same play must have been so painful, both emotionally and physically for him, because I think this is a career-ending injury. I think his time with the Eagles is up after this. And it really does break my heart because Sproles was out there grinding every single week for the Eagles.
And not only is this an Eagles-ending injury, it could possibly be a career-ending injury. Prior to that injury, he was, I believe, the oldest active running back on any NFL roster. Now, I could be wrong, but still, it doesn't take away from the fact that he's 34 years old and doing, as Selena said, going out there and just working hard every single play. In terms of replacing Sproles, we do have a really, really good young player in Corey Clement. He only had six attempts for 22 yards, but one of them was a 15-yard touchdown run that essentially, as I say, in every close game, everything counts. And that play from Clement was kind of a huge boost. So it's going to mean that Clement's going to have an increased role, and it has to mean that LeGarrette Blount gets an increased role, as well as Wendell Smallwood. He had 12 rushes for 71 yards and a long run of 20. So there's clearly potential within these 3 running backs that we have for them to go off, or not even necessarily go off, but just have good games like you see on the TV here. Smallwood is one of those backs where you don't know what you're going to get out of him, and I think he's just going to have to step up, and all of them are going to have to step up.
I think as far as this guy, Corey Clement, we saw what he could do in the preseason, and we were kind of unsure whether or not he was going to make the team, and then the Eagles ended up signing him to the 52-man roster. And I think he's been a pleasant surprise, considering they don't necessarily need him since they had Sproles and Smallwood and Blount, obviously. But I think he is going to have to step up, and I think he can fill that role for the Eagles, even though he is a rookie. But I would like to see more of LeGarrette Blount, because he really was just pounding away at the run against the Giants, and I think the run game was a key element in that Eagles win. Wendell Smallwood, I think, will be utilized more so for returning kicks and punts than he would at the running back position, but I think he's also essential to the team too with Sproles out.
Yeah, and it's rough because Smallwood himself has had some inconsistency running the ball. He's famous for fumbling. Every time I see him run, especially on crucial downs, I get a little scared. It was a godsend to see him play as well as he did, on Sunday. But out of the 3 choices, do you guys lean one way specifically? Like, do you think that maybe, like I know you're good on Clement. I know, there's praise for Smallwood. Blunt's pretty good, and especially in goal line situations. Do you think it's still too early to make a call for our franchise running back, or do you still want to see him mix it up a little bit?
I don't know if I would call any of these guys a franchise running back, but I think definitely for this season we should be seeing a lot more of LeGarrette Blount, especially like you said at the goal line. I think Blount is their go-to guy. He's got the veteran experience. He is older, but with that comes experience. So I think we'll see a lot more of Blount this season.
While I think we should see more of Blount, Selena, I think this is going to turn into more of a running back by committee, kind of like let's say what Cincinnati has. You have 3 talented running backs, and we're going to throw one of them at you and see how you react to them. Because clearly I think Clement has the speed that Sproles did and the quickness and the moves, the agility to do what Sproles did. Smallwood, as you said, he's a bit of a risk, and this was actually, I think this was his first good game of the season against a tough Giants defense, just overall. Blunt, the usual. He's going to give you that 4 or 5 yard per carry tandem every game. It's just a matter of how Peterson utilizes him, and that's going to be a question going down the road, considering, as we've been talking about this whole time, Sproles' injury. I think he can get a bit of an increased role, but not as much as we are anticipating.
All right, so let's talk about the next game we're going up. We're going up against the Chargers. The Chargers have suffered some losses this season. I'm feeling pretty good about it. If we can throw our picks up on the screen, we all are rooting for the Eagles this time. I got my man Torrey Smith as the MVP, 24-21. Josh has Brandon Graham as his MVP, 31-21, and then Selena has Zach Ertz, 24-23. It's all pretty much a close game. Josh, of course, has the biggest discrepancy in score. But, I picked Torrey Smith because I think it's going to be his game to really, torch that secondary and actually create separation, be able to ring some balls in. Why did you guys make the picks that you made?
I'm actually surprised that all three of us picked the Eagles to win this game. The Chargers are favored by 1, but I just had to go with the Eagles because this game, the Chargers are 0-3. They're desperate, but I think the Eagles will be able to beat them. I still think it's going to be a close game, though. Philip Rivers, in my opinion, is overrated at this point. He used to be a franchise quarterback. I don't know if I would call him that now. He's an interception machine. Hopefully the Eagles secondary, they'll get some interceptions off of him. And he doesn't have the same arm strength anymore. I also think, Zach Ertz is going to be my MVP because he and Wentz used to have a great connection, and I know he's kind of in a bit of a slump, but I think he's going to regain that this Sunday, and the Eagles are going to go on to beat the Chargers. Another issue I have was that the Eagles are on the road for this game, but at the same time, I don't know if I would say the Chargers have home field advantage in Los Angeles. I don't know if that's much of an advantage for them at this point.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I like how you brought that up. But I think it's all going to come down to containing Melvin Gordon. You look at his stats through the last 3 games: 146 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns against pretty good defenses in Miami and Kansas City, and then 1 receiving touchdown against arguably the best defense in the league in Denver. He's shown through 3 games and last year even that he can play against any team. So it's really going to be up to the defensive line to be able to get through the shaky offensive line that is the Chargers, and that's why I picked Brandon Graham as my MVP because, God forbid if Fletcher Cox isn't able to play, it's going to be up to Brandon Graham to be able to step through and really do what I say and contain Melvin Gordon.
All right, so that's going to be it for the Eagles talk. We're about to hit you with a commercial break. We're going to come back after. We're going to be talking Phillies, Fast 5, and then that'll be a show. Looking forward to see you after the break.
We love LaSalle TV.
I love that new show, Flip.
I gotta keep up, so news you can use has to be my favorite.
I love LaSalle Sports, so Sportsline is my favorite TV show.
We love LaSalle TV.
I love that new show with the psychology department, Relationships 101.
I love Backstage Pass. It's my favorite show.
We love LaSalle TV. SportsTalk Philadelphia.
Q&A, I love that show.
It's gotta be LaSalle TV News.
I love LaSalle TV.
Hi, I'm John. I'm Eddie, and we are hosts of LaSalle TV's favorite game show, Q&A.
Hey, John, I got a question for you. All right? At what time can viewers catch new episodes of Q&A on LaSalle TV? Is it A, Monday at 6:30, B, Tuesdays at 9:30, or C, all the above?
Is it C?
It is C, all the above.
All the above, wow.
Be sure to check out new episodes of Q&A only on LaSalle TV.
From the break, I hope you enjoyed those commercials. So we're talking Phillies right now. And I'm going right to Selena, right to Josh. After that All-Star weekend, the Phillies really improved as a team. They look completely different. They've actually, almost swept teams that they clearly should have lost to. And, we're going up against a tough weekend against the Mets. Like, how do you guys feel about it? Do you guys think that this is going to be a trend that's going to continue after the season, or should we only focus on the season now?
First of all, I wouldn't say tough games against the Mets, considering the Mets are basically just as bad as the Phillies. But I don't know. They didn't finish last place this season, and to me, that's a big deal. They did not lose 100 games. So I think this is a positive sign as we move forward with the Phillies, especially considering they have a good group of core prospects, and they had a lot of downsides this season. Like Aaron Altair being hurt was a really, really big issue for the Phillies, and also having basically only one good pitcher in their rotation, Aaron Nola, also is not going to help them win. So I think if they can add some, bolster the rotation in the future, see what they can do over the offseason and in spring training. I don't know. They look like they have a bright future ahead because you can only go up from here.
Exactly. That's exactly what I've been thinking this whole time. They're not going to lose 100 games this season, and that's going to be the first, and that's essentially the first step to shutting up the critics. They have a really, really great young team right now. They took 3 out of 4 against the Dodgers and 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. Those are the 2 best teams in the National League. And when you look at it, those 2 teams kind of had little things to play for, like home field advantage during the playoffs, during the NLCS, whatever have you. So these young guys have really showed that they can hang in there with anyone. Those, like I said, 2 of the best teams in the league. Nola, as you said, Selena, was the only bright spot in our pitching rotation. 12-11 record, 3.54 ERA. Not too bad for a young guy. He's going to need to get those numbers up if he wants to be the next Cole Hamels, the righty Cole Hamels. But yeah, the young guys were definitely the bright spot of the season. Rhys Hoskins, obviously.
Rhys Hoskins was amazing.
Absolutely.
Especially considering he didn't play most of the season.
Right, and he came right up from AAA, and he broke home run record after home run record. It was like 1 through 18 where he's at right now. He was breaking records. J.P. Crawford, we're hoping to see him as the next Jimmy Rollins possibly. He's got to get that average up though. You can't be the starting shortstop batting .210.
J.P. Crawford is a bit of a letdown at this point because he was expected to be up from the minors by now, but there's still potential there, considering he was one of the top prospects. So we'll see what happens for him in the future.
And then I want to add in about Jorge Alfaro. He came up from the minors, and I believe right now he still has an above 300 average. That's a huge positive because, a young guy not seeing major league pitching for the first time ever. That's pretty important there. And then Nick Williams, he's been a really impressive young guy for this team. He's a really good outfielder. He takes very good routes to the ball. And then he's just a slugger at the plate. He can do almost anything that you ask him to. He started out with a really good, about a 300 average, and then it started to trend downwards a little bit. But I think he is another key important player. And those 4 players that you saw on the screen there, those 4 are going to be they're going to be the starting point for this legitimate rebuild, let's say.
I think the rebuild can happen too if the front office can try to maneuver things a little better in terms of who they pick up and who they sign. I'm sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
So yeah, you ended on an interesting point that I was about to take. So yeah, these guys are going to be the core 4. So what about the rest of the team? What do you think the future rotation is going to be like, just really quickly?
Well, when you look at the young guys that we brought up, you got to start asking questions about the quote-unquote veterans. Freddie Galvis is the longest tenured player right now. He's one of the best defensive players in the league right now, and he's going to finish that way. Hopefully he can get a Gold Glove, but we'll see what happens there. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him because I think they're really looking to put Crawford at shortstop. If Galvis is open to moving around the field, I think he could stick around for the rebuild. And then you look at Cesar Hernandez. He was a really good leadoff batter, and I think his average right now is around 290. That's what you want out of your leadoff guy. We'll see what happens with him.
All right, so Now, for the exciting part of the show, we talked sports. Now we're going to be talking sports, but quicker. It's time for Fast Five. So, Josh, I'm going to hit you with the first question. Do you think Sondheim makes the team?
I'm not sure. I think he will. I'll leave it there. He will.
All right, Selena, so another question coming to you real quick. Eagles power rankings, we came in at number 6. Do you agree, disagree, what?
I think number 6 personally is a little high for the Eagles, but I mean, if that's what people think, I'll take it.
And so, yeah, I personally, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to jump in here talking about the power rankings. I think that's a really aggressive power rankings. I mean, 6, I mean, we've looked pretty rough in the almost loss to the Giants. And, you know, we lost to the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, I consider one of the best teams in the NFL right now. So, Josh, you want to jump in real quick since we're talking more about this?
The power ranking, 6 is definitely too high. If you put them at around 10 to 12 in that range, I think that's the perfect area for them.
Well, they are 2-1, and both of those wins came against division teams. So there's that.
All right, then, Josh, what Flyers players are you most excited for coming up on this new season?
Well, I'm glad you're asking that, Kyle, because I went to their preseason game on Tuesday against the Rangers, and Sam Morin, the rookie defenseman, 6'7", he's got a ton of length on him. He scored one of the goals in that game. I think he's going to be a huge bright spot for this young defense that we're going to have coming up.
He was a first-round draft pick a couple years ago, right?
Wow, yes.
All right, and Selena, so, yeah, you know, Sixers, you know, they got Humphreys coming in, they got Emeka Okafor. Do you think that these guys are going to be solid additions? Are they going to stay around? What do you think about their futures here?
Well, Emeka Okafor and Chris Humphreys are both veterans, but I don't think they'll be in Philadelphia past the preseason. Okafor hasn't played in the NBA since 2013. And when he was the number 2 pick overall when he was drafted, but he was injured, so that kind of knocked him out. Chris Humphreys, a really inconsistent player, has bounced around with like 6 different teams in the past 8 years. I don't see them staying on the Sixers for much longer.
All right, Josh, final question coming to you. You just came from the Flyers game. From what you saw, do you think the Flyers are going to make the playoffs?
I've said this whole time that they always have the team to make the playoffs, but they just don't have the core group of players to make a deep playoff run. I think they're going to make the playoffs this year because Brian Elliott did look really good when I saw him play Tuesday night. He made some really, really fantastic saves, ones that I thought, you know, Steve Mason or Michael Neuwirth could have never made. So if Brian Elliott can get hot, especially towards the end of the season, we're no doubt a playoff team.
All right, so yeah, that was a pretty great episode of Sports Talk Philadelphia. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on LaSalle TV Philly on, on YouTube, Sports Talk LTV on, Twitter, Facebook, Sports Talk Philadelphia. We got the social media coming at you. Make sure you tune in next week. It's going to be a great episode. We're going to beat those Chargers. Thanks. Have a good night.